Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Cricket for Us. And today we've got Aaron, the cricket connoisseur, to discuss the fantastic T20 series between India and South Africa, which unfortunately had to end in a stalemate 2-2 because of weather conditions. Now, I personally thought South Africa was going to take it away. I predicted like 3-2, but we never got the fifth match, so we have no idea. But in the end, 2-all, kind of a deserved end to a series with such dominating performances from both sides. Let me ask you, Aaron, what did you think about the series?
Yeah, it was a very good series, I must say. Obviously, a massive shame that it quite ended literally with a damp squib, didn't it? I suppose with that washout in Bengaluru. But up until that point, a great series, a fantastic advert for T20 cricket. In a way, the unpredictability, the chaotic nature of the format, South Africa were brilliant for the first two games. All fell apart in the third one, and then all of a sudden the momentum shifted, didn't it? India do get it back to 2-2, and it is a shame, isn't it, really, that the weather played spoil sport, because that would have been a great series decider. Great crowd in at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium as well, but unfortunately the weather has had other ideas. But I think for both sides, there are positives. There are also things which need to be learnt, though, from both perspectives at the end of this series.
That's a really good point, and I wanted to ask you this, so I'm glad you kind of put it on there. In your opinion, what are the biggest takeaways for South Africa and then India in this particular series?
Well, I think first and foremost for South Africa, the middle order is formidable, isn't it? Let's be honest, David Miller, in the form of his life, striking over 160 in this series, had a staggering IPL for the Gujarat Titans. He is going to be an absolutely pivotal member of this Proteas side heading into the World Cup in Australia. Heinrich Klaassen, brilliant. Really good series for him. Good to see him back in the runs. And then, of course, you've got the likes of Van der Dusen. Pretorius can absolutely leather a cricket ball as well. So for the Proteas, the middle to lower order, the finishers, I suppose, did their job in this series. So that's a massive tick next to their name. I think the real key thing, though, unfortunately, again, is the top order. It has been a bit of a question, a problematic area for the Proteas. Is the strike rate good enough in overs 1 to 6? I feel like in comparison to other teams, you look at India, for example, you look at England, you look at Australia, these sides really capitalise on overs 1 to 6. In comparison, South Africa, unless Quinton de Kock gets going and motors along to a quick 550, they do seem to be lagging in that area in comparison to other teams. And in Australia, on good wickets, good surfaces for batting, overs 1 to 6 are really important to set up a platform, a foundation, in particular for that strong middle order. So I think that's something, again, in this series, I wish we could have seen more substantial partnerships up the top for South Africa. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I think Quinton de Kock scored 36 runs across 3 games. Bavuma wasn't striking it that well either. So, yeah, definitely somewhere to watch out for from a South African perspective heading into the rest of 2022. In terms of India, this was an interesting series. First and foremost, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, great to see him back in this form in the power play. Power play wickets are really important. Power play runs, obviously, for the batting side, pivotal. On the flip side of that, though, if you're bowling, wickets. And Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, he gets lateral movement, he gets the ball talking. I thought he was brilliant in this series, as was Harshal Patel. So in terms of the Indian seam battery, very impressed. Very, very impressed. And Dinesh Karthik, I'm not just saying this as a big fan of his and a fan of the Royal Challengers Bangalore, but isn't it brilliant to see him back in this vein of form, striking over 150 in this series, when a lot of players were striking at 120 or even less than that? It's remarkable. The revamp, the road to redemption of Dinesh Karthik's cricket in the past 12 to 15 months is staggering. So very, very happy for Dinesh Karthik. In terms of questions for India, though, again, there is now a question about Rishabh Pant, isn't there? Which has come up. Now, this debate, the discourse has been rubbished, I suppose, by Rahul Dravid. He's mentioned that he's going to be an integral part of the plans, but his strike rate has got to improve. 123 over the course of his career. In this series, striking under 110. Rishabh Pant is going to be a key member of this side down under. Simple as that. He is their best wicketkeeper. He's also one of their most inventive, enterprising, brilliant cricketers to watch when he's in good form. But he's got to strike at more than that. And admittedly, in this series, South Africa did bowl well at times. He did get some good deliveries. Yes, you can also argue that the likes of Dinesh Karthik almost papered over those cracks with his performance. But I think for Rishabh Pant now, I think there's going to be a bit of a question. Maybe not into this World Cup, but maybe into the years that follow, because you have got Ishan Kishan, you've got Dinesh Karthik, you've got guys who can supplement that middle order if needs be. Yeah, I think the next few months are going to be absolutely crucial for Rishabh's future in an Indian T20 shirt.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask you about a couple of players, coming into the side. We already mentioned Dinesh Karthik. What he's done with his career over the past 12 to 15 months is just fantastic. Rishabh Pant not firing as well as you'd expect. On top of that, he was the captain of India in this series. Now, maybe that responsibility took a bit too much out of him. That could also be the case, but 110 strike rate for a player like that just doesn't seem normal, if you know what I mean. Now, Ishan Kishan, a player you mentioned, even though his strike rate wasn't the 140 or anything like that, he did score 206 runs or 207 runs in this particular series, and I was quite impressed with the way he went about all of his innings. What any words on Ishan Kishan, and then I am going to ask about Hardik Pandya because I'm a huge Hardik Pandya fan. So first of all, Ishan Kishan, any particular thoughts on him?
Well, he's fantastic, isn't he? It really is as simple as that. I think he had a good series, ended as the leading run scorer, I believe, out of both sides. So a very, very promising step forward for Ishan heading into the future. Again, I have been reading the news, the Indian media at times, and I've been looking to see if they do believe he's going to be in India's T20 World Cup vision. Mm-hmm. For the time being, I still don't think he is, I still think they're going to go Rishabh Pant with the gloves. Dinesh Karthik can be a finisher. We'll get on to Hardik Pandya. Now that he's back and firing, this India side look completely different. They look a lot more dangerous. Yeah. But then you do look at that top order, and it's somewhere where India are absolutely spoilt for choice, isn't it? With the likes of Gaikwad, I know he didn't have a great series, but again, a very promising player. Got K. Rahul, you got Rohit Sharma in the mix as well. Kishan is in the mix. It's going to be difficult for him to break through. But even if he doesn't on this particular occasion, if we're looking at the long term, I do think Kishan will play a lot more games for India. So, yeah, good series for him. Something he can take a lot of positives from. And aside from the strike rate, which, again, with Ishan Kishan, this says a lot about the character of the bloke. We do expect to be even higher. I do think he can definitely use this as a good learning experience to build a platform heading into the future.
Yeah, I think he's super talented. And it's funny how he was actually the keeper and the captain of the under-19 team when Rishabh Pant was playing with him. And it's just how things come together. It's really cool. In terms of the South African perspective, let me just touch upon one of their openers, not Quinton de Kock, Temba Bavuma, their captain. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that, again, before I get into a lot of talk, fantastic player. He knows how to hold one end, okay? He can be aggressive if need be, but more innings of his in T20 cricket are of a lesser strike rate than someone that they probably need at the top of the order with Quinton de Kock, right? You could look at players like, again, just names out of hat, but Rassie van der Dussen or David Miller or Henrik Klaassen. You could think of some other potential players at the top of the order to join Quinton de Kock to give them a fiery start. You mentioned India. You mentioned England. Goodness me, Joss Butler. Let's not even go. That's just out of this world. But Australia as well. A lot of the really, really good teams in T20 cricket right now, apart from Pakistan, because they've slow accumulators, but they just don't get out, and then they go hard at the end. But South Africa have to look at their top order. What do you say about Temba Bavuma and, potentially his future as South African captain and his position in the T20 side?
I'll start with the first question. T20 captaincy. I'm not going to make a comment on that just yet because we haven't seen the T20 World Cup, but there are a lot of questions, and that has just been the case with Temba since his appointment, to be honest, because he doesn't strike high enough. Now, in terms of him, being dropped as captain, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. Mark Boucher has given him his backing until the end of the 2023 T20 50 over World Cup, I should say, in India. So in terms of white ball captaincy, Temba Bavuma is South Africa's white ball captain until at least the end of that tournament, and then they're going to review it. In terms of his T20 future, if the Proteas do have a poor T20 World Cup, and let's say his captaincy isn't as good as it has been in the past, those questions will become valid. because in comparison to other options, South Africa do have someone by the name of Janneman Malan, who is outstanding against pace bowling, will definitely be knocking the door down in terms of that T20 World Cup in Australia. If he is still striking in the mid to low 120s and he's not producing these real key innings of note and substance, then yes, I think those questions will be valid. But for South Africa's fans, for the time being, let's bear in mind as well that South Africa had won, 14 of their last 16 T20s before those final two T20Is. One of them, of course, cost them in the World Cup against England. But goodness me, this is a good side when everything comes together. It's just about that top order. They've got to produce better foundations. And in addition to that, I will say the middle order, I do think they're over-reliant on them. So it's massively up to Temba Bavuma, 100%. But will he still be the captain? Yes, for the time being. Will my answer be different at the end of the T20 World Cup? Who knows? We shall have to wait and see, Asjad, but that is a question for another time.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, South Africa's record in T20 cricket has been really, really good as of late. So, yeah, can't really doubt his captaincy. But it's like, again, it's because I'm thinking more of his impact on the team with the bat as well, such as Owen Morgan. There's a lot of backlash on Owen Morgan. I was reading this morning, and it's valid. Same with Bavuma. It's valid. But because they're winning matches, you kind of hide that in that entire space. So let's see if Mark Boucher has given him the backing until basically end of next year. Then we'll have to see where South Africa are by then. But who knows? Maybe South Africa win everything, and then Bavuma stays, and Bavuma gets into a stupidly amazing run of form and scores 1,000 runs in a year. Who knows, right? But definitely, I think that's a good way to look at it from the South African future perspective. Just coming back onto Hardik Pandya. His performance, certain performances, I love the way he hits the ball when he's on form, though. Like the sound it makes off the bat, it's just exquisite. So his bowling is coming back, his fielding's there, his batting has actually come back into the fray of things after being the captain of Gujarat Titans in the IPL. How do you see his inclusion? Do you see Hardik Pandya as a consistent player, not just for the white ball team for India, but even the red ball team?
Oh, the second part of that question's made it interesting. Because I think back to the 2018 series against England, and I tell you what, at that moment, I thought Hardik Pandya, he's going to be up there with the likes of Jason Holder and Ben Stokes. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, injuries have derailed that. Oh, it's an interesting question. I think in white ball cricket, absolutely. He's one of the best all-rounders on the planet. We talk about three-dimensional cricketers, and Hardik Pandya certainly fits the bill, doesn't he? He's an explosive batsman, excellent bowler, very handy, just provides these key breakthroughs from time to time. And then in the field, he's a live wire. He's exactly what you want. It's a bit like Jadeja as well. We always describe him in a similar manner. In terms of red ball cricket, wouldn't it be fantastic to see him back? Again, we'll have to wait and see. But if he is fully fit, and let's say the performances are there, he just adds so much balance, doesn't he, to any Indian side. So we shall have to wait and see. Who knows what the future holds? But I think in white ball cricket in particular, when Hardik Pandya is playing, you watch. It's as simple as that. He always makes things happen. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching him in this year's T20 World Cup. And I think in comparison to 2021, I think his inclusion, I think his presence in that India side will provide a massive boost. And I do think they're going to come back a lot stronger in this year's tournament.
Especially because he can bowl now as well, right?
Well, that's the difference, isn't it?
He's not just a batsman that could potentially utilize a spot. He has that third or second skill, whatever you want to call it. And he's that fully loaded player who is in form at the moment. So, yeah, 100% agree with you there. So, first, in your opinion, yes, Ishan Kishan, highest scorer in the series. But who, in your opinion, was the batsman of this series?
I'm going to get accused of RCB bias here, I just know it, but I think purely because he had such a brilliant IPL, I think because it's leading into this wider story, isn't it, the road to redemption for Dinesh Karthik, I've got to select him. I thought he was absolutely outstanding, and when you think when he's coming in the middle order and he's coming in as a finisher, he's finished this series with just 4 less runs than Ruturaj Gaikwad at the top of the innings. I'm just loving this version of Dinesh Karthik. He's playing fearless cricket. He's playing entertaining cricket. And something which is so impressive is the variety of shot selection. He's very conventional at times against pace. And then he has a scoop shot, he has a
Yeah.
paddle, he has an uppercut. He always makes you think as a captain, well, where can I bowl to this guy? And for India, that is going to be absolutely invaluable. Yes, there are still the questions against leg spin, and I do worry about that. But in Australia, where it's not as conducive to spin bowling, and teams are going to go a lot more pace heavy, yeah, he's one of the first names on the team sheet for me at the moment. He's been absolutely exceptional for the men in blue.
Wow. I actually had a feeling you were going to say Dinesh Karthik. Glad I was right. Glad to be proven right. Let's talk about bowler of the series. I think this is a pretty standard one. You've talked about Harsha Patel and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar already. For me, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar was consistently amazing throughout this series. There was one really good performance by Avesh Khan, that four for, I think it was in the third or fourth T20I as well, which was really impressive. But Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, the consistency at which he's bowling the way that we remember him bowling years ago was the cherry on top of the cake from the bowling perspective. And that's my pick. I'm assuming that's your pick as well for the bowler of the series. Okay, good.
It is indeed. Of course it is. Boovy. Again, you love to see it, don't you?
Yeah.
You really do. So, yeah, happy for him. And again, I'll tell you what, if he gets the ball talking in Australia, India will be fancying the chances, won't they?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And last but not least, the Kamalka moment of the series for you.
I do actually have a moment, and it's from the first game of the series. And it was Van der Dusen when he got dropped by Shreyas Iyer. I was in absolute disbelief at that. I could not believe what I was seeing. And in particular, at that moment, Van der Dusen, he's on about 30 from 30 or 30 from 29.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that was the catalyst. Something awoke in Van der Dusen's mind, and he just went absolutely ballistic. All of a sudden, from knocking it into the gaps and struggling to find the fence, it was sailing over, absolutely sailing over. Every corner of the Arun Jaitley Stadium was being peppered by the South African. It was brilliant. So yeah, I'll go with Rassie van der Dusen's turnaround, but that was catalysed by an absolute dolly from Shreyas Iyer.
I would actually resonate with that moment, but I would actually go with the partnership between Van der Dusen and David Miller at the end of that particular match, because to me, the way they won that game, 210 or 211 is not easy to chase. Okay, considering you lose a few quick wickets, and then Van der Dusen's rebuilding, he's batting at a 100 strike rate, which is a run a ball, which means you're absolutely behind in the game. And then you've got David Miller at the other end, but you switch on straight after that drop. And it was just fantastic. Genuinely, for me, the best match of the series. You know, as an India fan, even then, I think it was the best match of the series. It was just really entertaining personally. Final point, I think I may have mentioned it briefly, but do you think this was the right result for a series that was that well contested that we didn't get an actual result to the series?
I'm going to be honest, I'm a bit gutted. I am a bit gutted, but then at the same time, I think if you look at the ebbs and flows of the series, South Africa got off to a great start. India wrestled back control. Is it a fair result? I think it is. I think it's a reflective result. I mean, yes, that was a brilliant game in the opener. Things did start to go a little bit more, I'm not going to say one-sided, but slightly dominant towards one side or the other as the series progressed. But it is just such a shame. It deserved a series decider, in particular in Bengaluru, in front of that crowd. The only thing I will say as well, I know this is slightly off topic, but I believe the fans only got a 50% refund for that, which I was very surprised about for 3.2 overs. So I'm not entirely sure why that was the case. Again, if anyone can let me know, please feel free to do so. But yeah, it is a shame that unfortunately such a compelling series, which was going down to this blockbuster series finale, ultimately ended up 2-2. But series tied, trophy shared. I think it's a fair result. And to be honest, as I said, I think both sides will probably take that.
I'm quite happy because I wanted to see a series that was well contested. And if there's no actual result at the end, then no one's actually mad at the end. It's like, oh, hey, 2-2, we're all happy. Very excited about what's going to happen in the future of Indian cricket. There's the England Test match coming up. Super excited about that. We're going to see South Africa soon as well. in England. So very, very good times coming ahead, especially from an England perspective. Lots of cricket. And yeah, thank you, Aaron. As always, really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining. Please, everyone, do like, share, and subscribe. Do check out the Cricket Connoisseur on every single platform in the world. Do check out the County Cricket Podcast. Check him out if you're at one of the stadiums in Brighton or Bristol or Leeds or whatever over the
All
next
over the place.
all over the place. If you're at a county game, you might just see him and give him a thumbs up, give him a wave. Like Randy, give him a wave. All right.
Mm.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. And until next time.